And welcome to NP the show. This is going to be a very, very different format here.
Claudia Thompson.
My name is Vinnie.
I'm Tywon Thompson.
I've been a part of November Project from pretty much from the beginning. Since 2012 was my first workout in the mothership of Boston.
From the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
I am representing NP Dallas. I'm one of the co-leaders actually for November Project Dallas. I am a running trainer, running coach, yoga teacher, and I'm actually in my yoga studio, my home yoga studio right now.
That's fancy.
Bougie is what we call that. That's a bougie studio. Okay.
You have a buffet? You have a buffet in there too?
Dude, what we're doing today, like we're just gonna have a conversation. I'm not gonna say about everything, but we are gonna have a conversation just with what's happening in the NP spectrum, the NP world, and as well as like in our own lives, like our own backgrounds and so on and so forth. We're just gonna be here and conversate.
My biggest challenge was, and I'll hear the same message from two different sides. I'll hear from Black people, you don't sound Black, you don't act Black, you don't, all these different things. And then I'll hear from white people, oh, you're different, like unique, like, and it's interesting because that led me to the same place where I think, I just desired wanting to like love people.
I got very, similar to what I heard, especially Vinnie say, you get comfortable navigating within white spaces because you have to basically learn how to survive.
Yeah.
During, probably even through 8th grade. My first experience though with racism, it's interesting because I liked playing chess. I like cheerleading. I like things that are like white activities. Right. So running, like things that like weren't deemed really for Black people. So I was like, if I want to do it, I'm going to just do it. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I come from parents, my dad is Afro-Latino and he's Panamanian and my mother's from Jamaica. And so my mother really had a hard struggle in Jamaica, coming over, abandoned my parents, the whole thing. So we really saw, education was really important for her, from my sister and I to have, and just hard work. So we're like, oh, if you work hard, you should be able to have these things, not really realizing about systemic oppression and racism and all that other stuff. My mom, Black women are the most resilient women, I think, period, right? We just deal with stuff. I think a lot of you were talking about this, Vinnie, like to hear like, oh, well, we didn't have to worry. We don't go there because we're like, we just keep going. We just keep moving. And I think people are so shocked now because they're like, people that I tell these stories to, they're like, really? We didn't know. It was like, I was training myself that my life didn't really matter enough to share this information. So it wasn't like we went to the police. Fast forward years later, when I was in 8th grade, the story that I really talked about was walking with my best friend who is Hispanic, and we're walking down the street and someone, these two guys were in the car and we're just laughing. It was like 4 p.m. and they pointed a gun and we heard popping, but it's like everything, the series, I really don't remember. I remember them laughing and shouting stuff and taking off really quick. When the light turned red is when they started shooting, and one of the bullets kind of grazed my cheek, and I was just in complete shock. And I think I broke shock a little when blood was like dripping down my face, In that moment, again, it was like constantly being reminded. So there was these overt acts that happened, but what I think impacts more is all the covert microaggressions that I experienced throughout, and I would never say anything. Like, I think because that happened in 1991, I'm older than most people know. I'm in my 40s. But when I was in 1990, I know, okay?
You better do it, girl.
It don't crack, y'all. It's true. So,
yes.
Shout out. I have a son in college and everything, okay? Being able to navigate in these white spaces and having the microaggressions from both sides, Black people saying, you sound white, blah, blah, blah. And white people saying, oh, I can't talk to other Black people. Like, asking all the questions. Can I touch your hair? Like, people would be, if I asked any white woman if I could touch her hair, like, that is, who does that? Right? But we always want to touch our hair, have every question in the world. And I used to be like, oh, cool, I'm a representative, or they feel comfortable talking to me, not realizing their unconscious, implicit bias, whatever, it was constant. And I think over time, you know, through college, jobs, you know, not getting promoted, having to do like 5 times the work to get recognition. You know, I'm one of the top reps now in my company. I'm doing really well. So I got a little nod, but they don't, you know, they didn't put a statement out for Black Lives Matter. They didn't check in on me. Like it's still happening today. So when we tie this into, you know, NP, I think for all of us, we have been used to kumbaya, you know, heal the world kind of mentality. We were used to navigating around white people, because I think the problem that has occurred is that for the Black people who have not been around white people, it has not been a safe space always, or a welcoming space.
Exactly.
And, you know, and I tell people, even at MP, I'm very outgoing, I'm extroverted, I can talk to whoever. I was most popular in high school. Like I talk to everybody. I was voted like most outgoing. Like I will talk to anybody. And for a year, I did not have any real close friends in MP for my first whole year of going. And I'm like what we call an OG of the OGs. Like I you know, black and white buff, even before the buffs. I was when BG and Boyd were running our workouts, I was in it. When we were on Good Morning America, you know, I got to be on like, you know, Vinnie was there. I have recruited people. I have done things. I've been a part of it. I've traveled across the world to be in races with these people. It's because I had a leg up because of the fact that I'm used to navigating amongst white people. But there's still those moments, you know, like we said, it doesn't stop. Right. And we're constantly reminded. So I think for me, Vinnie, and I don't know if this is you and even Tywon, where we have never ruffled feathers, because we are the ones like, that's why people come to us, because we don't ruffle feathers. We might not have posted Black Lives, like we believe that, but we're like, we won't say it because we don't want to lose people.
This is what I've realized about myself. And I'll tell you the moment that I realized this. I noticed that, so there was a moment where, before our president got elected, where, and I don't really get super emotional about conversations around race, because I didn't really experience a whole lot of pain around it. There were a lot of microaggressions and things that might have influenced me in my displacement, but there wasn't like pain. Like there wasn't like a huge amount of emotion. That has kind of insulated me a lot. And so I had a tough conversation on Facebook with an old college friend the night before a Wednesday workout. And we were working out at Independence Hall here in Philadelphia. And I remember I didn't even want to like wake up and go to this workout because of it. Like I was so drained, I was so exhausted. I decided to like just, you know, get up and go anyway, because that's what, you know, you do when like things aren't going right. You know, you just try and shake it out. And I remember getting to the workout and like, keep in mind where my mind is at. I just had like a really racially charged conversation that like in that moment wasn't emotional. But then when I got to the workout and we were bouncing and like getting ready and like we were going through like, y'all good? Like, that's when I looked around and I realized there's no one here I can talk to. There's no one here I can talk to about this. And like that was the moment where I realized that for so long, I was really good at leaving my race at the door of whatever space that I was in so I can be comfortable to have access. What ends up happening too is because I get comfortable in those spaces, I want everyone else in that space to be comfortable. Whereas like someone who might have more pain around their race and upbringing, they might, you know, come into that space as a whole person with that pain. And it might be more uncomfortable for those people that like, you know, me, you, Claudia, and you, Tywon, may have over time have just learned to like be more comfortable around and try and make it comfortable for them and like maybe like bring them comfort.
You know, it's so great that you said that, because I think that was the moment. We had some moments, right? Like there was like Charlottesville that happened, and I wanted people, I think as Black people too, we want people to be as mad as we are. Where my relationship started to change with NP was kind of like when those moments happened, when there wasn't a real stance. It was kind of like an all lives matter stance, which is fine if you're going to be that organization, but know that you're going to alienate a certain group of people. And I think, you know, again, and I would actually correct you, Vinnie, and say that you weren't trying to make yourself comfortable. You were definitely trying to ultimately make other people comfortable, because that's what
right, exactly. It's a projection. Like, it was a projection.
I don't want to mess anybody up. And like you said, those moments when there's stuff in the media, and every time I'm crying because I'm worried about my son, you know, I don't feel like I had a space. There was only like a group of us who were Black that I could talk to. So if they're not there, it's like, okay, I'll bounce and I'll get through this workout. But I really wish I could actually talk to somebody who gets this and who's fighting for this. It just kind of like we started to kind of seep out, and you see that, and of course, like Vinnie, when you and I met right away, I was like, oh, who's this black guy? Like who is this? And then I remember for Summit, did I tell you, Vinnie, when we were like at Summit here in Boston, I'm like, I saw from Baltimore, and I was like, oh, he's a co-leader? I almost fell off the stairs. And I go to Boy, and I'm like, oh yeah, we have one. We got one.
Man.
He didn't say that, but it was like, oh yeah, no. I was like, who is that? Like, what is happening? And I was like, but for me, I'm like, I shouldn't be excited that there was one. I did have a lot of conversations with Boyne, and he was actually understanding. Even when we went to Good Morning America, April, who was down in New York, she was a member. She was there. There was a couple of us who were black that were there. And it was like, some of us get to go into the studio. We play rock, paper, scissors, and like the losers got to go upstairs. And I saw it was all white people going up. And I said to Boyne, I said, hey, you can't send that upstairs. You need to send somebody black. It doesn't need to be me, but you need to send. So he sent April from New York and her son. So I was like, you cannot, if we say we're for everybody, like, but that's always on my mind. And I could see that it wasn't always on theirs. So I think that is something, if NP wants to make a shift, that's the shift that needs to happen.